Good morning, everyone. Welcome to grant management training for the IBHRS system, which is set to go live on Monday, August 9th. Next slide, please. So a few housekeeping items. We would like to ask that you mute audio and video, of course, unless you're engaging one of us for a Q&A. You feel free to show your video and, of course, unmute. This training session is being recorded, and as always, we'll post this recording on the IBHRS site. And please use that chat line. We'll monitor throughout the meeting and answer any questions you may have. And again, this will be posted on the IBHRS site. Next slide, please. Again, my name is Nick Lavarado. I've met the majority of you. I'm the project manager for all things IBHRS related. I would like to introduce Val Hewitt from FEI. She will be managing, or I should say, hosting the majority of this session today. So welcome, Val. We're going to walk through the logging in of the IBHRS system, and we're going to go straight into grant management workflow. We'll talk about the grant management dashboard, and then we'll end with a Q&A session. And then Shelby and I will go through a few timeline related items and IBHRS site related items. This time I'll pass it over to you, Val.
All right, excellent. Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. I can't believe it's going to be August next week, which seems a little crazy. I saw on the bottom of the site it said the 30th, and I was like, oh man, how's it already the 30th of July? I think Corey's actually going to come in and walk through the transition plan here. So Corey, to you.
Oh, thank you. Hi, guys. Sorry, I have a dog drinking water in the background. I apologize. It's probably a little bit loud. I can't control him. So before Val launches into the training for the grant management side of the system of IBHRS, which I think that you guys will find that it's pretty similar to what you guys are doing today, I did want to talk about what's going to happen with the current iSmart data that you have for your various grants, whether it's SOAR, COVID grants, et cetera. During the deployment on August 9th and the migration over to IBHRS, we'll be migrating or moving any client episode within an active grant. So that would be SOAR 1, SOAR 2, COVID-19 1, or COVID-19 2. I know there's a couple different rounds of COVID-19 grants out there as well. Any client within those that has an episode within those grants will be migrated to the new corresponding IBHRS provider facilities. I think those are all being migrated to the primary facility. We'll show you, of course, on the client list and search how you can locate your clients. They're not going to leave your agency, nothing like that. All the client data will still be available within your provider organization. It's just that their episode may be under a different facility that you'll have now going forward use and have access to. So I think it'll be a pretty smooth transition. All of the inactive grants, those like SBIRT, PPW, Matt Padoa, SYTI, et cetera, those will stay where they are in the current facilities as they are currently in iSmart. So they're coming into IBHRS, that data is all being moved over. However, they're just going to stay in the same facilities where they were originally. Also, we are, as of this afternoon, we're doing a kind of a lockout of most users of the system. Actually, I don't even know if it's most at this point. A lot of users of the system that are using iSmart for SUD and problem gambling. Although you all, I hope we caught everyone. You all will be excluded from that lockout. You'll be able to continue to use the system through next week until the morning of August 9th. When we shut down the site to do the full deployment for a few hours to IBHRS, okay? And then starting on August 9th, that's when existing account will no longer work. Everybody will be given a new account based on the user agreement that IDPH either has received or will receive from you. They need to have that for each staff person before they give access to the system. All right. Any questions about that before I turn this back over to Val? I see what question. Does this include IPN? I'm not sure what your question is in relation to. This training is specifically for those provider organizations that are managing grant programs, either the SOAR grants or COVID grants within IBHRS. The lockout that I mentioned before, starting this afternoon, will be for mostly for those organizations entering substance use disorder and problem gambling data within the system. We will be, I think, Nick, if you can confirm, we do save the slide deck to the website for IBHRS.
That is correct.
So that'll be on the IBHRS website as well. All right. Okay, Val, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. And speaking the documentation that's on the IBHRS website, we also have the documentation on two-factor authentication, which is going to be a part of the new user accounts. There's step-by-step instructions on how to download like an authenticator that either goes onto your phone or goes into your browser. And there's a one-time setup, and then there's for everyday use. You'll just go in, get the TOTP, which is like the one-time password. They expire like every 30 seconds. So it's for security purposes. If you have questions about how that's going to go, there is this smart guide here, and there's also full-on documentation as well that goes step by step on how to do it. All right. We are gonna start with the client workflow. We're going to put the dashboard at the end. So what we're going to do today is do a walkthrough of the steps for grant management. And the easiest way to do that is to hop into the system. I'm going to do a little Vanna White style tour of the new UI. If you haven't seen it, we have the name of the environment that you're in the upper left-hand side. If you go over to the right, it'll have your name and your agency and provider here. To log out of the system, there's that log out button there. You want to make sure that you click that as opposed to closing out your tab or closing out your window, because of how the system, depending on your browser, you might remember cookies, so it might not log you out fully. So the best practice is to click that log out button when you are done using the system. There is a welcome for you here up at the top. It'll have the date. There'll be notifications here if you have one, if there are notifications about referrals. We have an announcements section, and announcements can come from IDPH or sometimes from FEI. There's the alert list and the scheduler, which I don't think you guys are using at this time, but they're listed on the home page here. And then the left side panel, depending on what access you have, will be a little bit different. I'm logged in as an administrator, so I have all of the things, but depending on your user role, you may have less items on the left side panel than I do. We're going to be in three different areas on that left side panel today. We're going to start with the client list here. And the client list has our client search up at the top. And I've done a search. It remembers your last search. So I'm just going to take that out or you can take that or hit the clear button to clear the search. By default, it has 4 items here. We have facility, first name, last name, and you can also search by UCN, the unique client number. If you need additional fields to search by, I'm going to click on that advanced search button, and then here we can search by additional fields. So if I want to search by last for the SSN, or if I want to search by like different areas here, we have that ability. In general, I just stick to the stick to the regular client search. The search is a little bit, let's go with narrow at times. So the example that I like to use for this is my full legal name is Valerie. The only person that calls me that is my mom when she's angry. And then I usually get my 2 middle names as well. But if I were to search Val in the system, it wouldn't come up because I would be in there under Valerie. However, we do have what's called a wildcard search, and the wildcard search will pull anyone who has any part of that, those search parameters in the name. So if I search Val, it would, with the asterisk, it would pull Sandoval, it would pull Valentina, and it would pull me in as Valerie. And you can do the wildcard search for first or last name as well, which is nice. There is the ability to do what we call a blank quick search, and that's if I leave everything blank, it gives me a list of all of the clients at my agency. And depending on how many clients you have, that can be a large undertaking to look through, but that does do the blank quick search here, and I can see all the clients that I have in this training environment. So if I do my search and I find the person that I'm looking for, I don't have to create a new record, right? Because they're already there. You can hop in and for those of you who are familiar with the old UI, you used to click that pencil icon to the left-hand side of the name. But now, instead of that, what we're going to do is we're going to hover over the 3-dot icon, and it has the same abilities to go to the profile, activity list, or the linked consents. All right, so if I don't find the person that I'm looking for, I don't see him there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to click that add client list here under client list. So the add client brings me to the client profile. I'm going to click that and the page will load. And here now we have all of these different fields. Any field that has this orange on the left-hand side is required before you can move on to the next screen or do the next thing. So I'm going to go ahead and put my client in and fill out those required fields here. Let's give him a, oh, that's not a year that he could be born. Goodness. There we go. And I'll put in the last 4 of his social security number. Put in his sex and gender identity here. And his sexual orientation. Then we have the ethnicity, which is required by the state. And we will put in his information. If he has, we have the primary race field here. If he is multiracial, you can go in and use the mover box to highlight and then move over additional races here. We also have the ability to put in a profile image of the person with the new user interface, but you have to do that once it's been saved for the first time. All right, so I've got my basic client profile information in here. And then what I'm going to do is an address and a phone number are also required. And I'm going to go ahead and click that addresses link here, put in the address type. And then I'm just going to put in a fake address and put in a county and a city. It will default to Iowa here for the address because the clients should be from Iowa. And then I'm going to go ahead and click save and finish. Because I just made up the zip code, there's an address validation. So it checks against the United States Postal Service database, but there wasn't a match. I'm just going to go ahead and choose that, but it's a good fail-safe for you guys if there is a potential address issue. I'm going to go put in a phone number because we'll see that that's required as well. And once I have all of that information in, I'm going to go ahead and click that save button here. And what that does is that opens up the new client header. Once the record is saved, we have our client information. This is, we can put a picture of the person if you have a picture. We have the first name and last name, the unique client ID, which is the number that's generated by the WITS system. We have his age, his date of birth, his gender, and then we have his preferred method of contact. And mine just defaulted to the home address. If you want to change that to his phone number, what we can do is just go to that contact info field and then the preferred method of contact. I'm going to switch that to phone. And that will change that to the phone, because then you have their phone number right at hand, which can be helpful, especially if you are trying to do that 6-month follow-up. You don't have to do a whole lot of digging. You can just see that their preferred method of contact is right up there, up at the top. All right. Once I have that information in, you can either save or save and finish. If you save and finish, it will bring you back to the client search. However, you'll still be in the context of the client because we have that client header for Roy on top. And anything on this left side panel will apply to Roy. So if I go back to his client profile, that'll be Roy's information, and the information that was grayed out previously here will be added because this is not editable information. So it has that unique client number, which is the de-identified number that just applies to Roy, which user created it, that was me, what the date it was created, and then if it's been updated, it'll show who last updated it. All right, that was a lot of talking about creating a client. Does anyone have any creating a client questions? All right, I'm looking in the chat and I don't see anything. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. So the next thing that I want to do is create a client group enrollment, and this is for grants that do billing. Lorena said, can the UCS be fixed, the UCN be fixed if it's entered incorrectly? The UCN is generated by WITS. So if it's once it's created, that's the number that's tied to that client. Excellent, okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is if my client applies for grants that bill, I'm going to go in and create a client group enrollment. So this adds a client to a payer group that allows the system to bill. So from this payer list here, I'm going to add a government contract enrollment. And then once I have that here, it's going to ask me which contract. And this is the UAT environment, so it doesn't have perfect data in here. So there's a bunch of kind of test stuff, but I'm going to go with this SOAR 2 grant management. Of course, in your real life system, it'll be the real life grants that apply for you. Then it'll automatically put, once I choose my grant, it puts that subscriber number in. And then I'm just going to go ahead and choose the plan group. So I'm going to choose the general one. Then we're going to put in the start date. I'm going to say, okay, he started on Monday. I'm going to put that start date in on the 26th. I'm not going to put in an end date, obviously, because he's still active. And then once I have that information done, I'm going to go ahead and click save. All right, any questions about the client group enrollment? Okay. After we do that client group enrollment, the next thing we want to do is set that client up so that they can start recording information against them with their episode of care. So to do that, we're going to go all the way to the client list here, and I'm going to click on activity list. And the do not stop, do not pass go, do not collect $200 process to start recording information is you gotta create an episode, and that's we in WITS we call episodes and intakes kind of interchangeably. So we're starting that new episode of Click Care by adding an intake. It'll confirm what treatment domain is, so we're just going to choose grant management because that is my option here. And then we have a bunch of required information here, but a lot of it's already filled out, which is nice. So the initial contact, let's say it was by appointment, we'll do the date of first contact, and I'm going to match that to when they started services. So I said that that was Monday, and I'm going to put that date of first contact in, and their intake date, I'm going to mirror that as well. Then I'll choose their county of residence. And the domain is already chosen for us, so we don't have to do anything from there. Once I have that completed, I'm going to click Save and Finish. And then we have our activity list listed here. So we have our client information profile here. And then we have the intake transaction, which we just completed here. And the client activity list kind of functions like a to-done list. Like these are the things I've done, as opposed to a to-do list. So we have our intake completed. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a program enrollment to record the GIPRA. So on that program enrollment page, we can see if we have prior enrollments, they would be listed here. But since Rory is brand new, we are going to go ahead and add an enrollment for him. And then from here, I have my program name. I'm going to choose SOAR2. Again, your program names will reflect your actual program names. We've got this UAT environment that has a lot of different stuff. I'm going to, just like with my intake, I'm going to make sure it accurately reflects when Rory started in the program here. And then I'm going to go ahead, this is a pretty simple page, and click Save and Finish here. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the program enrollment? Or anything I've gone over so far? Okay. All right, so we have added our client, we have started the client group enrollment, we have done our intake, our program enrollment, and then we have our GIPRA. Because you guys all know how to complete the GIPRA, I'm just gonna go there and then I'm gonna switch from Roy to a different client who's already had a GIPRA recorded for him. So Beth asked a question, will all our programs be the same as what's in iSmart? And in terms of that transitioning, Corey or
I'm sorry, what's the question?
will all our programs be the same as what's in iSmart?
Ew. They will all be tied to one of the grants. I don't know exactly if they're going to be called the same thing. We can follow back up on that one, Val.
Okay, cool. I'll make a note on that one on mine too.
Thanks.
All right. So the GIPRA is the same process as before. We have that add GIPRA intake, and it's only available. The intake is only available. You have to have an intake before you can have a 6-month follow-up or a discharge. So we have that GIPRA here. I'm going to go in, and I have another client who has a completed GIPRA. So I'm going to go ahead and look for her. It's Keely Jones. So I'm going to click that search here. Oh, let's see. Why is she not coming up? There we go. So we have Keely Jones here, and I'm going to hover over the 3 dots to get to her activity list here. And we can see here on her client activity list, we have her client information, we have her intake transaction, her client enrollment. I also enrolled her into SOAR 2, and then she's had her GIPRA interview completed. So something that's important about the process as we go through is that the next step is going to be setting up the voucher, and the GIPRA intake has to be completed before you can create the voucher. So that is important to know. And to complete the voucher, to create the voucher, what we're going to do is once that GIPRA intake is completed, we're going to go back to the client profile area because that's where this lives. And right below client group enrollment is the voucher information. So the voucher information, and creation is so to get clients the resources that they need. And so to do that, I'm going to click on the plus add new voucher record here. And it'll auto-populate the group enrollment that she has already and the contract, what the effective date is and the end date of the voucher. So I'm going to backdate this to Monday. And then we have if we have any comments, we can put those in. And then once we have that voucher information here, I'm going to go ahead and add a service. Oh, I've got to save my changes first. What's nice about the system is that if you skip a step, it will let you know on this page. So I'm going to go ahead and click that add service link here. And then we'll choose a vouch service. So we have 2 options here. I'm going to add in the care coordination for GIPRA admission, and then I'll put in the vouched units and save. And that will give me my vouched amount for the GIPRA admission. Then I'm going to go ahead and click that save and finish button. And if I have another vouch services, we wouldn't set up a separate voucher. We would just add an additional service to this current voucher. So I'm going to click add service here. And then I'm going to choose my service. So I'll choose RSS clothing and personal hygiene. And then I'll put in the amount. And that'll, for clothing and personal hygiene, you put the number of vouched units to the dollar amount here. Unlike the intake, which is you put in 1 and it gives you the amount. Then I'll go ahead and click save and finish here. And we have our vouch services. As we use that money, it'll, if we go back to the vouch services list, it'll show us the original vouched amount, how much has been encumbered, which means how much has been used so far against the vouched amount. And then expended is when it's been processed through the system, and then the available units is what they have left. Does anyone have any questions about the voucher setup?
Not seeing any, Val.
Yeah, okay, we're doing good.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got my vouch services here. I've done my GIPRA intake. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create an encounter to show you how to use some of that voucher dollars. So I'm going to go back to my activity list here for Keely, and then I'm going to go to encounters. And I don't have the encounters because she's new to the system. So if I have previous encounters, you can click that search button to see them, but I don't, so they're brand new. So I have my encounter list here. I'm going to click that plus add encounter. Then we have the encounter page here. So the encounter type that we're going to choose is going to be an individual note. We are going to leave the event type as RSS. The program name for her program enrollment will automatically populate here. Then we choose the service. So because we have that clothing and personal hygiene voucher created, we're going to, as part of our voucher, and I'm going to choose that one here. Then we'll go ahead and put in the date. The date that you put in for this encounter needs to be within the parameters of the voucher. So if you date the encounter either before or after the voucher period starts, you're going to get an error. All right. Then we'll go ahead and put in the duration. And then the number of sessions is the number of dollars. So if I do $20 for with this encounter to track that information, we can put in the service location. All right, we can put in a note if we have a note. This is my note about this encounter. So an unsigned note is able to be edited. Once the note is signed, it goes into the signed note section and is not editable from there. You can add additional notes to that as well. So Beth said, I thought we were to do 1 day for duration on all dollar type RSS events. That may be
Yeah,
correct, but I may have just
yeah.
gotten it
And
wrong.
hey, Val, sorry, I'll chime in. Beth, that could be. I think you would follow the guidance from IDPH on the service types and what type of duration they are. Unless, I don't know if we have Pat or Nick want to chime in on this one right now. They may not want to. But yeah, I mean, that's the general guidance, is that you would follow your.
I was on mute. I apologize.
Oh, hey, yeah.
Let me follow up with Pat on this. I know Eric's out this week, but I want to make sure we give you the correct information. So I'll be in touch with you today.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, so once I have my encounter completed, I'm going to go ahead and save and finish. And then it'll look like, if you aren't familiar with this process, it may look like your encounter has been lost. It has not. You just have to do a search for it, so to get that to show up. So I can see here my encounter list. We have our start date, what service it was, the duration, the session, the rendering staff, what program it was, and its status. And right now my status is not released. So what I want to do is go in there, hover over the ellipsis icon and go to review. And from review, we now have the administrative actions to release to billing. So what this does is it sets off the processes in the background to get that money paid, which is excellent. So that is then, once I do my search, I come back to my encounter list here, I can see that the status has now been released. And then if we go up to back to our client profile, and I'm going to scroll down here, I'm going to scroll down on this side and go back to that voucher. So we can see here, if I go to my voucher list, I can see that we have that vouched amount. We have $20 encumbered, and we have $330 available. So in the UAT environment, we're not actually spending any dollars, so that we don't have the systems run to expend it. But once it's run and it's paid, it will go into expended so that we can see that that was paid, and we can see what's left that's available. If it's needed to add additional funds to a voucher record, you just go over to that 3-dot icon and go back to the profile. So Aaron said, is there a way we can get the release to billing piece come up on the screen first without having to reopen it again? And Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, if you just click save, it'll come up, right? Instead of save and finish?
Yeah, if you just click save, it will come up. So if you stay right on the screen, just click save,
Yeah,
and then it'll show up at the bottom.
yeah. Save and finish takes you back to the original list, but if you just click save, administrative actions will come up. I just wanted to do it that way to show you guys that it said not unbilled, not released.
Yeah, that typically you would just click save, stay right on the screen, then click release to billing, and then you can just be done with it.
Yeah. So if I need to, okay, Lorena said, if we create vouchers when we do the GIPRA, but don't actually add the encounter until they're eligible, 30 days later for clothing assist, will it not let us, will it error? So
no, it should be fine. I mean, that the voucher stays open. You can add encounters when you actually provide the services to the client. So that could be 30 days later for clothing assistance. That could be, who knows whatever the service inventory is that you guys are providing. So yeah, this is just a truncated version of it so that we can go through it quickly. But yeah, you would leave the voucher open as long as it needs to be, as long as the client's involved. You can always go back and edit the voucher as well, and then just enter the encounters when you deliver services.
Yeah, and let's say that you don't go to create the voucher until that 30 days. You can backdate that if you need to. I backdated mine. You just can't, I don't think you can future date an effective date. It has to be today or prior. Cool. All right. So yeah, if you need to add voucher services or edit the amount, you can go in and do that on that voucher profile page as well. All right, so we have our voucher completed here. We've done our encounter. Let's go. So once that's submitted, it goes through the payer process to get paid. If you need to do a consent and referral for your client, what I would recommend, it's the same process as before. So if I go to my activity list, we have those abilities for consent and referral here. So if I need to send someone to another agency or facility, we can, so that's good to go. If I go to agency, let's go and talk about some of the follow-ups here. So under agency, you guys won't have this crazy list I have because I'm in as an admin, but we do have the GIPRA follow-up due summary and the follow-up due detail, which are really important. So if I click on the follow-up due summary, it gives me aggregate totals of on my clients and where they are at in terms of their follow-up due. So if I choose sort to here, and I'm going to click that search button, it tells me how many have been missed, how many are new, how many are due, all those different things. It gives us the categories, right? Because this is a UAT environment, we have some definitely different information here. You can go over and hover over this little eye icon to see what the different categories mean. So if someone is non-compliant or compliant, we have those definitions right in here, and it'll give you the compliance right here. Hopefully you're not seeing 0%. This is just a training in UAT environment, but it'll give you your agency's compliance right here. If I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the follow-up due detail. So if I click on there, what that'll do is I select the grant that I want to see, And then I'm gonna, and then the status is, we can see, okay, people within their 6-month follow-up window, people we can do who missed theirs, who are upcoming, or who are non-compliant. Or if you just want to see everybody, you can click that all from the drop down. And that'll give you a list of your clients and their statuses. So we've got Tony Danza in here. We like to have fun with the training environment names. What agency they are, we have what facility they're in, their status, what their GIPRA intake date was, and then what their due date is. So what is the 6-month date? When does their follow-up open, which is there's that 3-month window between when they're eligible at month 5, that's the date listed here. And then the follow-up window goes until month 8, and that's that date here. So we have that information. If we want to hop right in, we can go into that person's GIPRA information right from here by going to view. And this list can also be exported, so that if you want to export the list, and then, export it to Excel if you want to, assign staff to follow up on certain things, you can do that from there, which is pretty handy. Does anyone have any questions about the follow-up, do detailed or the overall one? Okay. Excellent. And now, do you guys, are you all ready on this Friday to see something pretty cool? Yeah. Hey. There is a brand new grant dashboard. So if I click on that grant dashboard on the left side panel here, I'm going to click on my grant management dashboard. And we have this very cool visual representation of data. I don't know about you guys, but I love some visual representation of data. We have GIPRAs by gender. We have the GIPRA follow-up compliance. We have our follow-up due. We have our GIPRAs by race here. And the episode details. We can also, like in our follow-up due, we can go to specific records. We can filter the information because so we can choose what grant we're looking at. We can choose the agency if you have more access to more than one agency. If not, it's going to default to your agency. We can filter by different statuses from here to see that information. And that will update the information here. You can also filter these GIPRA pie charts as well. You can do that by grant and agency and GIPRA interview date range. So if you want to do a specific date range, you can do that here, as well as with the other fields as well. So Beth asked if you could export these, and unfortunately, I don't think you can. Tell me if I'm wrong, Corey. Is this exportable?
You are not wrong. If you do me a favor, click on the GIPRA follow-up due, expand that little arrow on the far top right, expand it to the full screen. At this point, no. I was just double checking here. I don't think we can export from a dashboard right now. So it's something we can capture and talk with the team about going forward.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Good question. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah, I agree that would be cool too, Beth.
You guys could definitely take a screenshot of it, or
yeah, 100%. Also, one of the things that I wanted to point out is that if you want this page arranged in a certain way, you can drag and drop these different dashboard areas, which is one of those cool. So if you want to, switch it around. All right. And then, Corey, is there anything else on the dashboard or anything else you want to make sure that I mentioned before I just talk about the closing process briefly?
no, I don't think so. Nope, you
Yep.
covered.
Yeah. All right. So, and then when you're done with the client, you want to make sure that you've done all 3 of your GIPRAs, and then you can go ahead and close the program enrollment and intake as needed. But yeah, does anybody have any questions about anything that I've gone over? Would anyone like to hear a terrible dad joke? I mean, you're gonna anyway. All right, let's see. What's a good one? How do you organize a space party? You plan it. It's terrible. Okay, um, I have apps. I also have a page a day dad calendar as well on my desk because I am that kind of nerd. But we have a question. Are you going to show us how we do the claims reconciliation report, or is that not needed anymore? And I'm going to punt that to Corey and or Iowa.
Yeah, yeah. Beth, I think that process most likely won't change, the claims reconciliation report. We hadn't planned on really going through that today. You guys would continue doing, I believe, what you've been doing in the past. That report would still be there for you. You may just want to check with IDPH to understand, any new or different processes going forward on that side of the billing piece.
Hey, Corey, this is Pat with
Hey.
IDPH. Just to amplify that a little bit, I believe we still will have some of that report, but most of the rest of that will be replaced with the 837 process. So some of it will still be there, but most will not. I'd encourage you to refer to that 837 guide and continue to report, or excuse me, submit questions to the SAPG Data Help Desk that we can follow up on as well.
All right, we got some additional questions in the chat. So Lorena said, how about a discharge on a client? Is it the same as iSmart? And my understanding is that it's the same, right, Corey?
To discharge from a grant, it's the GIPRA discharge. I want to be clear that it's not the SUD discharge that you're used to in iSmart. That hasn't really changed. I mean, that's changed obviously on the SUD side. For the grants, though, it's still, you would complete the GIPRA follow-up during that time frame, GIPRA discharge, and then close out the program enrollment and close the case, and just kind of wrap everything up like you're doing today within iSmart.
And then there's a VMS report submitted with the monthly claims from SSRS. Is there a new report that we need to submit with the claims?
I think we'll need to get some clarification around this one, as well as and Pat, on the 837, if that's going to include the services provided under specific grants, or if that's only IPN. I think
Pat said that's only IPN.
Right. So there we go, Beth. I didn't want to give you a heart attack on a Friday.
On a Friday, yeah, no, that's not necessary. Heart attacks are for Mondays only.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I think generally with grants, I would say generally the same process would be in place that you're using today for billing, like the voucher, encounter services, claims reconciliation report, et cetera. But like Pat said, I mean, we'll get some, or IDPH can follow up and determine if any of those processes are changing for the different grants.
All right, and I think we got everybody. Do we need to do anything other than having the grant management episode open in iSmart for the patients to cross over to IBHRS?
They will all cross over to IBHRS for your SOAR grant, SOAR 1, SOAR 2, COVID-19 1, and COVID-19 2, if you have any clients in that yet. They'll all come over into the new facility within IBHRS under your respective agencies. All of the previous, and that doesn't matter if they're open or closed. Also, all that data is just going to come over. All the previous grants that you may have client information for, like whether it's SBIRD or SYTI, MAPADOA, that will still remain within IBHRS, but that will just be in the original facility that you guys entered that client information in. So really, I don't think you just keep working like you are right now within IBHRS. Within iSmart. I don't think you have to do anything special for this all to transition over.
I just wanted to make sure, because I know on the substance use domain, they're having to like discharge people. So I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have to discharge the grant recipients, but I just would keep them open.
Keep them
Like,
open. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Yep. Just act like you normally would in the system for the grant clients. Nothing special there. You do not need to discharge the grant individuals from their GIPRA and everything else. That's only related to the SUD and problem gambling clients.
All right, wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
Corey, this is Erin. Can I just tag onto that just for a second? So I have an intake that I completed. It's on paper yet. I haven't put it in. My assumption is that I need to have that entered into the system before that date, or it's not obviously going to transfer over. I understand that. If I put it into IBHRS and backdate it, will that be allowed? I'm just trying to make sure that, I mean, I understand it all needs to get put in there, but in the event that something gets missed and I miss one, will I be able to backdate an IBHRS?
There's no room for mistakes, Erin.
I know, right?
No, you're fine. Unless Pat has other information. I mean, the reason why we're keeping, we want to keep everything consistent for the grants, because we don't want you guys to close out the GIPRAs and then re-enter in a new GIPRA intake interview for clients that are currently involved in the grant. That's just not good for the SAMHSA funding and the grants, et cetera. So I think if you miss one and don't get it entered in iSmart before August 9th, when you regain access to the system with a new account on or after August 9th, as that's created for you, you should be able to enter that GIPRA for that client, whether it's an intake or a follow-up or discharge, whatever the case might be, and backdate it accordingly. I don't see any problem with that. I think the dates will still be applicable. You can backdate them.
Okay, thanks, Corey.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Andrew. I had the question on that SSRS. So currently with our SOR2 grant, I guess I've been generating, I think it's like an Iowa Grants claim summary in the SSRS, and I've been submitting that with my monthly SOR2 claims. Maybe don't need to do that, I guess. So that's why I was just asking if we were still gonna have access to the SSRS, or in this IBHRS, if there's in the reports a different claim summary that should be submitting, or if, like I say, if I don't even need to submit, I guess I have a claim summary report.
Sure. Pat, I don't know if you have guidance on that one. I'm not sure what's required by the state right now to submit your SOR or COVID claims. It sounds like, Andrew, what you're doing is pulling another report from SSRS to send along with that to IDPH for reimbursement. My first take is that we'll probably have to follow up with the program folks at IDPH to figure out what's going to be necessary moving forward. But Pat, I don't know if you have any info on that one.
I don't have specifics either, Corey. So yes, we will need to follow up, and the process will still be the same. It's just us getting those SSRS reports reset essentially under the IBHRS flag.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So Pat, then if the process is the same, this is Erin again, then I assume that there won't be a voucher system available for, like, say, the COVID grant like there is for the SOR2 grant.
Good question. We'll need to follow up on that one as well. Sorry. I'll reach out to Jenny and the rest of the project team on that COVID grant.
And I think Jenny might have said that it'll probably stay the same. So if that's the case, I think that's more wishful thinking than anything. It's handier to obviously have that voucher in there, but if not, that's okay.
You're probably right on there. I will confirm with her, but yes, if she's already given some feedback or guidance on that, then ultimately she as the project director will be the final voice on that.
Let me jump in here. This is Nick. Can you confirm who asked that question? I just want to make sure I'm capturing the correct notes here.
Oh, sorry, Aaron Jewell. I just asked the question.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yep.
Excellent. I think, any other questions? All right, so now we're gonna kick it to Shelby. Shelby, on the implementation timeline.
Awesome. Thank you, Val. All right. So this was our last training for the month of July. Hopefully you all are collecting the IBHRS required data. That was supposed to start July 1st. So either collecting that on paper or in your own EHRs if you have those. Please work on the certification steps. So testing data entry within IBHRS in that UAT environment, or if you're submitting XML files, doing that upload process. Just a reminder, you have to complete 2 of each data set with no errors before your agency can be certified to submit in the production system. We do have a training on Monday coming up. That is going to be an open Q&A session for IBHRS. We'll have the system pulled up to walk through any questions that you might have. So Monday morning, we will have that. And starting August 9th, if your agency is certified, you will begin reporting that IBHRS data. That is when we go to production. So previous SUD and PG episodes entered in iSmart will become read-only in IBHRS. iSmart will no longer be available after today. Actually, we are locking those accounts and there will be no more submissions to the CDR after today either. Certification activities should complete. So we only have 7 agencies certified to submit to production right now. So we're hoping that ramps up in the next week or so that you all can be submitting when the system goes in production.
Excellent. And then we've got the next steps.
Yeah, thank you, Val. Just a few things to call out. Shelby, you covered one. On Monday, we are hosting a Q&A session. I think that's a very important webinar. I would strongly encourage everyone to join. And if you do, please come prepared. We'll have the UAT site fired up and be ready to answer any questions you may have. I'm going to put something in the chat real quick. That is the link to the webinar details if you, the Zoom details and all that, if you need that. A few other items to call out. Shelby, thank you again. You mentioned certification. You covered 2 out of 3, actually 2 out of 4. My 4th one would be the IBHRS user agreements. In addition to Shelby mentioning, agencies need to be certified within the system. We also need to receive IBHRS user agreements for every user. And I want to clarify, every user, for a general user, you must fill out and sign that form. In addition, your IBHRS administrator must sign your form as well. I've been reviewing quite a bit of forms this week, and for the most part, they're accurate. I just had to send a few back just to have them re-signed. But not a big deal. Just remember that your IBHRS administrator will be required to sign that as well. And user names for the production environment going live on August 9th. You will not receive credentials until August 9th or maybe the 10th. We're hoping to get all those out on the 9th. IDPH will solely be responsible for building those usernames within the production environment. And trust me, we are all hands on deck on the 9th. Corey's joining us as well, so we're looking forward to that. We're going to be issuing usernames and be ready to answer any questions that come up. So we're going to be manning the phones, as they say, and we'll be ready to assist if you need that. So, Shelby, I think that's all that I have.
Excellent. All right. Well, that looks like some excellent, perfect timing on behalf of everyone. Love when a Friday meeting ends on time. But thank you guys so much and have a great, fantastic weekend. I hope you guys get to do lots of fun stuff. But thanks and have a great day.
Thank you, Val.